I'm Justin Boyd.
I'm Brittany Pacheco.
And I have yellow spandex on, but you can't see.
And we are the Watchers in the Basement.
Welcome to the Watchers in the Basement. Today we are here to discuss Logan. The reason why we're here talking about Logan is because Deadpool and Wolverine is just 1 week away. And before we get into Logan, I want to get everybody's excitement level, being that the movie's a week away. Brittany, how hyped are you for next week?
I went and bought a damn shirt specifically for our review for the upcoming Deadpool and Wolverine movie. So yeah, I'm pretty excited. I won't say I'm on the same level as you, Justin, because the fact that not only did you buy tickets ahead of time, but you're going to go see this movie way more than I'm going to go see it, like back to back to back. So yes, very excited. I absolutely love Hugh Jackman as Wolverine. Ryan Reynolds as Deadpool is amazing. The fact that these two are actual real good friends in real life. I just can't wait to see the chemistry that they have on screen once again. If you're like, what are you talking about once again, Brittany? Go check out our review of X-Men Origins Wolverine, where we see the first time Ryan Reynolds played Wade Wilson, aka Deadpool. So go check that out on here on the Watchers in the Basement. And while you're doing so, don't forget to subscribe. Frank, how excited are you about the upcoming Deadpool movie?
I'm getting like nervous erections when I think about it. Like I'm so excited. It's almost sexual how excited I am. Like it's like losing my virginity for the first time of how excited I am for this movie. I feel like I deserve this movie. I've been a fan for as long as I can remember, since I could walk. So the fact that not only did Ryan Reynolds bring to life my third favorite superhero in the Marvel universe, he's tagging along my favorite superhero in the Marvel universe and Wolverine. It's gonna be epic.
Oh man, Justin here. We got a couple people joining us in today's chat. Appreciate M Moves and Tracy Vigilance being here. M Moves says, "Nervous what?" Frank.
Erections.
Oh my god. Tracy says something is wrong with Frank. Oh my God. Yeah. No, there's nothing wrong with Frank. Frank is perfect just the way that he is. This is what you can expect every single time you join us here on the Watchers in the Basement and also in real life, because the three of us, we all work together, and the fact that we like each other so much to create this podcast for you, the viewer. We obviously get along very well. We obviously have similar dark humor, and some more than others. But anyway, Frank is just perfect the way that he is. So love you, Frank.
So nervous boners aside, we're talking about the reason why we're excited for Deadpool and Wolverine. There's a couple reasons. Obviously, you've got, this movie is going to bring Ryan Reynolds and Deadpool into the MCU, but it's also going to bring Hugh Jackman back to the role of Wolverine / Logan, because the movie we're talking about today was intended to be his final time playing this role that really made him a star. He started playing this role in 2000. 2017 was going to be the last time he played the character. We'll talk about the ending of the movie. Obviously, the ending of the movie makes you feel like this is the last time. But yeah, so Hugh Jackman's coming back. So obviously, we're very excited about that too. Before I get Brittany and Frank's thoughts overall in the film, I want to hit you with some Logan facts. Logan was released March 3rd, 2017. It's the 10th film in the X-Men film series, in the third and final installment in the Wolverine trilogy, following X-Men Origins and the Wolverine, which was also directed by James Mangold, who directed this film. He also co-wrote the movie. Had a budget of $97 million. It made a box office of $619 million, so it did very well. At the time when it came out, it was the third highest grossing R-rated film. This movie was nominated for an Academy Award for Best Adapted Screenplay, becoming the first live-action superhero movie to be nominated for screenwriting. So this is, spoiler alert, this is one of the best superhero movies ever made, and we'll get into that in a little bit. Runtime, 2 hours and 17 minutes, and it's an R-rated film. Of course, all the dudes getting their heads, bashed in and stabbed in by claws and a lot of F words. So no surprise it's rated R. The Rotten Tomatoes score 93% from the critics, making it the highest rated X-Men film. And the cast, of course, includes Hugh Jackman, Patrick Stewart, Richard E. Grant, Boyd Holbrook, Stephen Merchant, and Daphne Keane, who was making her film debut. She was only 11 at the time when this movie was filming. Brittany, what are your overall thoughts on Logan?
This was definitely a change, right? Obviously, for many of us who grew up with X-Men and seeing Wolverine in his prime with, of course, the X-Men and what have you. And then seeing, of course, different adaptations of Logan going through periods of time, right? But it was still always Hugh Jackman, it was still always Logan and what have you. And to finally get what was supposed to be the final chapter and seeing Wolverine / Logan older, not as, in his prime. Obviously, he's not healing like he used to once upon a time. It's been, I think, 25 years since any mutants have been born.
Yep.
And you can clearly see just how much life has taken toll on Logan. I loved that Professor X had a potty mouth. It was hilarious to me to see Sir Patrick Stewart have his moments, and the story in general was just very dramatic. It was very sad, of course, in the end, and it broke my heart, honestly. I mean, I knew more or less what was going to happen. Now, mind you, I did not see this movie when it premiered. I think I saw it maybe a couple of years later, just because I didn't want to have to witness and also to participate in saying goodbye to one of my favorite X-Men characters, if not the favorite X-Men character, right? So I loved the change in the theme of the story. It wasn't like your typical, we've got to save the day, we got to save the world necessarily. It's we've got to save this kid and the next generation of mutants and all that. So it was a very, very interesting story. And I didn't know that it actually had been nominated for an Academy Award. So that's really amazing for this genre of superheroes to be considered. And that goes to show that not only the acting is top notch, I mean, the writing was top notch, and it's always great to rewatch it. However, it's still sad. It still breaks my heart.
Yeah. Frank, your thoughts on this film?
When it comes to mine of films that I just revere, that I view as just perfection, it's up there. It's for me, it's a 10. I don't I don't. It frustrates me that Fox had a talent like James Mangold as a director, and they only gave him this movie to do. I don't know if he did other Wolverine movies, but
yeah, he did the Wolverine before it.
He did
the movie before this, the Wolverine. Yeah,
the Wolverine. Okay.
Yeah.
He depicted Wolverine like the comic books. And he takes pieces from the Death of Wolverine, from I think it was from the same year, or 2016, when that comic book came out. It's so emotionally deep, and to have Hugh Jackman, because when you watch superhero movies, it's a lot of explosions, bang bang, guns a blazing. Hugh Jackman came with some method acting in this movie. He looked beat up. He really played that role. The red in the eyes, you could tell his character's been through the ringer. And when I watched that film, I've only watched it 3 times. Normally with Marvel movies, I watch it, I like it 8, 9, 10 times. And not because it's not good. It puts me in such an emotional dark place, because one of my favorite revered characters meets his end. And for that character, he wants to die. He's been around since the fucking Civil War or before that, in Alberta, Canada. So we're talking about 200 plus years of just suffering and love and loss, more loss than anything. And for him to meet his end, it was so poetic. And to have X-23, his clone in the movie, kind of carry on the torch. a lot of people don't know, like Fox actually greenlit an X-23 film. It never saw the light of day.
It's sorry,
After,
it's X-24. 23 is
sorry.
the kids. Yeah.
Yes.
24. Yeah.
Yeah,
Go ahead.
X-24. Yeah, they actually greenlit a X-24 movie with this clone in it, but it never saw the light of day. But for this movie, man, I loved it. Deadpool Wolverine, it kind of, I'm glad that movie's coming out, but it kind of tarnishes the homage of this movie, even though it's a different Logan in this film coming out. But that's supposed to be, Hugh's last role. So I think for like the legacy of that movie, it kind of tarnishes just a little bit because Logan's coming back, even though it's a different multiverse Logan. But that movie was great. Everything was about it was great. Daphne Keane, that 11-year-old, man. I mean, I know she's like 19, 20 now, but like that kid steals a show too. And I love how Mango did his homework of like he got down like even the temperament of like Logan and X-24 in there. It's like it's to the T like the comic books, and it's very hard for directors to kind of like stay keen to the comic books to keep the essence. And James Mango did that, so shout out to him and shout out to the movie.
Yeah, no, this is a great movie. This is a lot of people like kind of refer to this as like Marvel's The Dark Knight. Obviously The Dark Knight is probably the best superhero movie ever made. I mean, I think like I like Endgame better. I like, the Marvel stuff a little bit better, but this movie for like a solo movie is, way, way up there. And, after watching this movie this week and, rewatching it again and seeing like Hugh Jackman, how like he's like so perfect in this role. And he, just like he's just awesome. It's like, there's a lot of talk about, hey, when's the MCU gonna bring in their X-Men? When are they gonna cast Wolverine? There's all these people who are rumored to be casted as Wolverine and all these younger actors. And it's like, honestly, I don't want to see anybody play Wolverine anytime soon. Like, I'm in no rush to do that. If Hugh Jackman wants to come back and play the character, which obviously he does, he's gonna be in Deadpool and Wolverine, obviously. There's a lot of rumors that he's gonna be in Avengers Secret Wars or whatever that movie's gonna be called. Just a heads up, next week is Comic-Con in San Diego, and Marvel has 2 panels. So I've heard rumors that both the Avengers films are getting new titles. So Kang Dynasty, that's no longer the title for Avengers 5. Avengers 6 is supposedly called Secret Wars. I've heard both are going to change. We might get news on that next week. But either way, it sounds like Hugh Jackman is down to play this character more. And I say bring it on. Like to me, there's no way Deadpool and Wolverine is going to be a bad movie. I think it's going to be the biggest movie of the year, given the box. Just the box office number will be the highest. I think. Just you look at the cultural kind of like footprint it already has. All the commercials, all the like the pomp and circumstance. Like this is going to be the biggest movie of the year, and I'm going to want more of this stuff, and especially like in a Secret Wars scenario where you have potentially Tobey Maguire's Spider-Man meeting up with Hugh Jackman's Wolverine, meeting up with Robert Downey Jr.'s Tony Stark. Like that's going to be a moment. And I feel like something like that's going to happen. But, and by the way, don't be surprised in Deadpool and Wolverine if we see other actors play different versions of Wolverine. That could also happen as like it's a Ryan Reynolds movie. So there's going to be a lot of funny stuff thrown in there. So don't be surprised if you see people that have been rumored to play Wolverine. Like maybe the guy that plays Harry Potter, Brittany, that guy, he might be a Wolverine in this movie. Don't be surprised if something like that.
Yeah, I've heard.
Up.
I've heard, of course, Daniel Radcliffe, who played Harry Potter, was kind of considered, or I don't remember if he himself said he wanted to do it, or someone out there said, hey, he'd make a good Wolverine. Taron Egerton, who's another favorite of mine. He's originally from Wales. He's also actually co-starred in a movie with Hugh Jackman. So they're great. I think he's got the physicality to maybe be Wolverine. But yeah, that'd be fun to see different variants of Wolverine in Deadpool and Wolverine. So I'm here for it. I mean, like I said, Wolverine is probably my favorite superhero of all time. And seeing Hugh Jackman grace us once again on the silver screen as the one and only Wolverine, I'm here for it. I'm ready.
And to kind of add what Justin was saying, like, I'm with you, man. I agree. I don't want anybody else playing Logan. Like, I think he's perfect. And then, like, for people who say that, Hugh's getting older, Wolverine's old. Like
Right. Right.
he's not like a young guy. Like he's not like, you know,
Yeah.
Captain America who's 70 but looks like he's 30 or 28. Like he's an old character. He's 200 plus years old. So I mean, Hugh keeps himself in great shape. Every Wolverine movie that he's been in, he's at tip top shape. And from the trailers out that I saw in this trailer, he looks like in tip top shape again. So he could play Wolverine for another 10 years if he wanted to, if he wanted to commit to it. But I mean,
he can get it.
Yeah.
He can get it.
And,
Just, he's also newly divorced, so call me.
But Hugh Jackman, he's 55 years old, and you're right. If you've seen the trailers for Deadpool Wolverine, he's in maybe the best shape of his life, or he's extended the shape he's been in for these Wolverine movies. And speaking of Logan, while he was training for this movie, he ate a minimum of 6 meals a day, and he started working with his trainer at 4 a.m. with all of the workout sessions lasting an average of 3 hours. It's like, how many hours are in the day? There's only 24 in the day. If you're working out 6 times for about 3, you're working out 18 hours.
18 hours?
Like,
Lord.
that is insane. And Frank, as you mentioned, he pulls double duty in Logan. He plays Logan, the old man Logan. Then he plays X-24, which is the like prime version of Wolverine, which I remember the first time I saw this movie, I did not know that was coming. And I was like, holy hell. Like, I mean, first off, Frank, is X-24, is that a character in the comics? Is that a thing?
Yeah, I thought, no. Well, yeah, it's a thing. Cause like I think there's 26 Weapon X's, 15 after Wolverine, I think, or 16 after Wolverine. Because Deadpool's one of them. Deadpool's one of the Weapon X, one of the Weapon X projects as well. But I think there's 26. For the last time I've read, it was 26 different incarnations of Weapon X, of that project. I mean, Weapon X is 10, but yeah. So there was 9 failures before Wolverine, and then I think Deadpool was like 13, and there was a bunch of like other clones. But yeah, there's a lot of them.
And didn't that begin with Captain America? Wasn't he the first of the
first one?
Serum, and then the Hulk is a part of that too. So I like how all these key Marvel characters are basically created from this idea that we've got to create a super soldier, or like this Uber man or whatever, this machine that can fight for us. I love how that storyline keeps producing these like major characters.
And like a lot of them died. Like the reason why Wolverine and Deadpool and lore are like one of the few ones is because the experiment is so stringent on the body. Wolverine almost died. Like you're bonding adamantium to a host, and like most people can't take that because of the physical torture. Adamantium is heavy in itself. So so I think most of them died. I saw like 3 or 4 examples of them. So
yeah, but but back to and speaking of dying, basically everyone in this movie dies, which that's also why this is. I mean, it's a great movie, but you're right, Frank. It's not a rewatchable movie because it's such a bummer. It's such a sad movie. I mean, we're going to talk about all the deaths, but as we kind of move through the cast, Brittany, let's talk about Patrick Stewart as Charles Xavier. He is playing a 97-year-old version of Professor X who has some form of dementia, obviously. What'd you think about Patrick Stewart in this role, playing this, very, very, very elderly Professor X?
This is Patrick Stewart doing what he does. I mean, he's a master actor, right? You give him a script, he's going to perform the hell out of it. He's phenomenal. And to again reprise a role that he's played so many times, but you see a different version of that role, right? I mean, we saw that he died, spoilers y'all, in X-Men Last Stand. X-Men Last Stand.
Yes. Yeah.
The third one. Okay.
Yeah, third one,
and then in a mid-credit or post-credit, he miraculously shows back up without any explanation whatsoever, and we're just going to accept it. Cool. I'll accept that over Palpatine resurrection. That's fine. I always have to throw that in there. You know that, Justin. Yeah. But to see just how obviously time has taken a toll on these two mutants. It's not just Logan. It's Professor X as well. One of the most powerful mutants out there, who is connected to everyone in some way, shape, or form. And he is ill. He's ill. He has these seizures that really take a toll on the population. It's mutants and humans alike, right? And he needs to be sedated in order to, not have these seizures and not interrupt life, right? And it's Logan is burdened with not so glorious purpose to take care of him, right? And it's not only just, Logan, but it's Caliban, who's another mutant who is like a tracker of a mutant, I guess you could say, who is, sensitive to light and is having to also take part in all of this too. But with Patrick Stewart as someone that you can see glimpses of who his character was from back in the day, right? Especially when he's around, I was going to say Daphne, Laura, who is the mutant in this, the child mutant in this story. Just how sweet he is with her, speaking in Spanish with her and trying to explain things and take care of her as best as he can in the condition that he's in. And then too, we lose him. We lose him in this movie. That was devastating. And I mean, we lose him, but he thinks he goes out because of, Logan, right? It's sad. It's just so sad. Like, this movie overall, it's just really sad. And that's why I don't like watching it that often. But Patrick Stewart is just phenomenal in whatever it is that he does. And to kind of close that chapter, it seems, for Professor X in this movie is just very appropriate, given the nature of the story.
Frank, what do you remember about the first time you saw the movie when X-24, the Logan clone, kills Professor X? Because again, that's something I did not expect to see in this movie.
Yeah, it's a little bit different because in the comic books, Professor X is dead. So with all this is going on, like he's long gone. He died in Civil War II. So that was an interesting mix to have Professor X live in his moment. But when X-24 killed him, I was shocked. I thought he would survive to the end of the movie. But I mean, that X-24, that's Wolverine unhinged. So like watching the unhinged version of Wolverine just cause havoc was like shuddering. It was, I mean, that was a gruesome, that was some gruesome murders that he committed to that family in the farm.
Oh yeah,
the farm.
terrible.
And, my God, that, as far as R-rated movies go, that's probably one of the most violent scenes I've ever seen from an action flick. But nah, it was great to have that character in it. I hope to see more incarnations. I hope in the future of the MCU that they kind of explore the Weapon X program a little bit more. And hopefully in this Deadpool Wolverine movie that you might get discussions of that. And they're from different multiverses, but you might get discussions of Weapon X program from both their perspectives. So, but no, I thought that was a great addition to the movie, having X-24 and X-23 as future characters.
Yeah, you referenced that scene, the family that takes in Charles and Laura and Logan, and that, I mean, them getting killed is so brutal every time I see that. But like, to me, I don't like the fact that like it's not made clear that they're being killed by someone other than Logan. Like, I feel like they don't even. I mean, they just met these people. They don't know who Logan is. Like, I mean, only the husband knows that he has these claws, to our knowledge, right? So the way they play it, it's like they're just treated as like a lot of people are just like fodder in this world. It's much like how the old couple in X-Men Origins Wolverine,
I
very
was
similar.
just gonna say that.
Yeah, very similar.
It's history repeating itself. It's
yeah.
like you encounter the Wolverine or Logan and do something kind for him, and then you end up dead.
Yeah.
Like that theme continues.
The only difference is like he didn't kill them. I mean, or someone that looked like him didn't kill them. It was, it was a sniper. It was I can't think of the guy's name, the mutant that shot him. But
Agent Zero.
Agent Zero, that's right. But in this movie, like it's not clear, like, do they think that they're being attacked by this guy that they fed and we're gonna give him, a room to stay in. So I don't really love that part of the movie, but I mean, in some ways that's kind of realistic because it's such a, like it's almost like a horror scene in the middle of this movie or late in this movie where you're just like, wow, they're just gonna murk this whole family like for no reason. Um, but no, I mean those are very powerful scenes. Moving on with the cast, we've talked a little bit about Daphne Keane. She plays Laura. She's also, X-23. Um, Brittany, I want to get your thoughts because I'd forgotten until I rewatched this movie that she has. Like, tell me what's your take on the fact that she has two little claws and she has a foot claw, which I totally forgot about that. What are your thoughts on the claw on her claws?
Savage.
Yeah,
Love it. Give me more. Like, when you're female, and of course she was experimented on, right?
yeah,
With the being a test subject in this facility, and not just her, but plenty of other kids. That's brutal. Like, so when you're, let's say, 10, between the ages of 10 and 12, like that's a very vulnerable age for a young woman, right? And someone who has been experimented on, she's given these adamantium claws, the DNA of Wolverine, who is, directly her father. It's cool that she adapts these fighting techniques and has that additional claw, if you will, in her foot. It's like, hey, surprise, wham, like that. For me, I would absolutely welcome that. I think it would be super cool to have adamantium claws all throughout my body that way, because sometimes I wake up in the morning and choose violence, and I want to be prepared. I want to be prepared, especially where we live, where we work, and you just never know. So I think that was a really fun addition, just to make her different from the DNA that was sampled from Wolverine, right? And so that was really cool. I'm all about women protecting themselves. I don't care how old you are. So there's fun addition for me.
Frank, tell me what are your thoughts on the claws and her fighting style, especially when she's fighting X-24 and she is like working him over.
And what's crazy, that's an unrefined Lori Kinney. She's not like
Yeah,
trained to T. Like in the comics, man, when she escapes the Weapon X program and she joins the X-Men, Wolverine really trains her. And she's more vicious than Wolverine because there's a level of like inhumanity and feralness that Wolverine doesn't get to that she does get to.
yeah.
Fight ability is crazy. Like I wish they would have made that a trilogy of like that's sitting around Laura Kinney's character, because it's such an intriguing character in the comic books, and like how she came up. Wolverine kind of like in the comic books kind of like takes her as his daughter, and it's a great connection in the comic books. But for the movie, Daphne King killed it, man. Like it was the action was so dope. The fighting scenes were so dope. I think she was 11 at the time. Like the fearness and the violence that child showed was uncanny. I've never, outside of maybe like Deadpool and like Sabretooth, I don't know many more violent fighting styles than X-23. I hope we see her more in the future, especially in the Deadpool, and if Logan decides to come back. I mean, Hugh decides to come back and do more films. I hope they bring her back. So
Yeah, I mean,
You,
go ahead, Brittany.
I was just gonna say, you haven't seen my fighting style, Frank. When I wake up and choose violence, just saying.
my goodness.
The thing about Laura is like she is like literally like a rabid Wolverine, like just like all over whoever she's fighting, just just killing everybody. I did want
Yeah,
to point out,
she's one you don't want to, like, meet up in an alleyway or that kind of thing, which is,
yeah,
I like the dynamic between seeing her fighting style against X-24, because X-24 is like a very feral sort of
yeah,
version of Wolverine. And with Laura, it's like Frank said, she's an unrefined version of Wolverine, with you will. So it's kind of like they're kind of similar, but then they're like really not at all at the same time.
yeah. X-24, he's like a mindless killing machine, whereas she is still a person who she is a person. She was nurtured. She was she has friends. She had these nurses that took care of her, and but I mean, her fighting style is amazing, and like, I mean, she was taking him down single handedly and just all over him. I did want to point out before we moved on that Millie Bobby Brown auditioned for this role, but Keen got the role. So pretty pretty big feather in her cap to get that.
Who's that?
Millie Bobby Brown is most famously from
Stranger
Stranger
Things.
Things. You've
She
seen
rec-
Oh,
yeah.
she recently married John Bon Jovi's son.
Oh, really? I didn't know
oh.
that.
Yeah. Yeah, they recently got married. Yeah, Millie Bobby Brown's been doing her thing. Like she's like you said, well known for Stranger Things. She's been Enola Holmes, which is a Netflix production. She recently did Damsel, another Netflix production. She's very like affiliated with Netflix. So yeah, she's grown up into being a really great actress. It would have been interesting to see her adaptation as Lara, but I think with Daphne being the choice, I think that's the perfect fit.
Yeah. And speaking of Enola Holmes, Brittany, you and I and Amber, we reviewed those movies a while back. So go in our archives and check out the two Enola Holmes movies that we reviewed. And speaking of friends on here, we have Geeking Out with Melly Mel. She's in the chat. So I want to say hello to Mel and everybody out there. And we appreciate the comments and everyone, liking our video and subscribing and all that good stuff. So yeah, keep on doing that. We appreciate it very much. Okay, so from the good guy, well, I'll stick with the good guys for a second. Let's talk about Stephen Merchant playing Caliban. Now, Caliban is not a character I am super familiar with. Brittany, are you familiar with that character besides this movie?
Negative.
Yeah.
Negative. I'm familiar with Stephen Merchant,
Right.
but definitely not Caliban. I'm not sure if Caliban is someone that existed in the comics or this is a creation for the movie. Frank just nodded saying that this is a mutant who was in the comics. So I'm going to just turn it over to Frank with his wealth of knowledge of X-Men.
Yeah, Caliban is a mutant tracker in the comic books. He first appeared Uncanny X-Men, I think it was either issue 148 or 149 in back in 1981. He was actually in the comic books, he was actually one of the alternating horsemen, four horsemen of the apocalypse. He was the first death, actually. And he was the second pestilence as well. He was a villain early on, and then later on became a hero once he was released from the Four Horsemen. He later died, I think, in one of the House of M events in the comic books. But it was a very interesting character for Mango to bring in because he doesn't really have a connection with Wolverine. I know he was in, and what's interesting is that Caliban was actually in X-Men Apocalypse, but he wasn't in the he was in the movie, but he wasn't one of the Four Horsemen. He was
right.
I think he was a mutant tracker working in Egypt with Storm and and Psylocke. But so he's been in a few of the X-Men movies, but having in this movie was a total creation by Mango. But it made sense though, because for this dystopian world with this very few mutants left, you will have the one mutant tracker to be able to track wherever mutants are left. So
yeah, and Caliban, you're right, he was in Apocalypse, but it was played by a different actor, and it was a very small part. Like it was like it was, wasn't as big of a role as this movie. So it is interesting how this kind of Fox universe kind of played out, where they were kind of fast and loose with timelines, with character, people, like as far as continuity, they weren't a huge fan of it. They just kind of built everything around Wolverine, which made sense because he's the main character, and obviously we've talked about how great Hugh Jackman is as his character. But
yeah,
it'll be interesting to see how will Marvel have a Caliban, or will one of the two Calibans that we've seen, will they appear in Deadpool and Wolverine, and also will X-23 appear? That would be kind of cool.
And Caliban is one of those guys in the Marvel universe. He's not popularized, but he's been on so many teams. Like he's on one of the versions of X-Force with Deadpool and Cable. He was with X Factor, with Havoc, Cyclops' brother. So he's been around in different formats throughout Marvel and throughout the comic books. He just hasn't been a popularized character. But yeah, it'll be cool to see him. I wouldn't be surprised if he's in Deadpool and Wolverine, because Wolverine was the X-Force member 1.2, so you would have 3 X-Force members in one movie if Cabin does show up in either one of the multiverses. So
Now that I think about it, and since we've been given X-Men 97, it's interesting that like Morph actually looks similar to Caliban from this movie, at least to me. I mean, that's just trying to connect dots here. Not that it really means anything. It's just an observation I wanted to say out loud.
No, it's a good point. I mean, I hadn't really thought about that, but that's right. But I forget we talked about this. Isn't Morph a creation by the animated series, or wasn't he created by the series?
Yeah.
yeah, for the 93
Yeah.
series, he was created for, and then
Yeah.
he became a hit, and then like he later got implemented into comic books in the mid 90s. But yeah, he was primarily made for the animated series and made as the best friend of Wolverine.
Aww.
I mean, Brittany, you bring that up. I would love to see a Morph in live action. That'd be
Oh
really
yeah.
cool. Like,
Could you imagine? Could you imagine that would be the one opportunity where you could actually bring in past actors, like multiple variants of the same kind of character, I guess you could say. You could bring in Fassbender, you can bring in McKellen, to be Magneto, but still show like it'd be shown through Morph, right? Like that would be kind of cool. It's not like
yeah, that's a really good idea. That's really
it's not like they're playing different versions of themselves. It's one character who's adapting to other characters and just I think that'd be awesome.
That's a genius, Brittany. That's a genius idea. I hadn't thought about that. That is really.
I want
good.
royalties. I want royalties. I don't know who's watching, who's listening. Royalties, mine, copyright, intellectual property.
Yeah,
from this brain right
it's
here.
It's kind of like what Loki does in the MCU.
Kind of,
like when he turns into Captain America or whomever. Speaking of Loki, obviously the TVA will be involved in the Deadpool and Wolverine. So it'll be interesting to see how that all plays out, and maybe Loki will make an appearance. I don't want to spoil the end of Loki season 2 because I don't think Frank's seen it yet, but I feel like
I need you to do better. I need you to do better.
So much the time jumping, the going in and out of like different periods. It's always becomes bothersome for me. Because it's so follow.
Why do you make it hard to love you sometimes? Why?
Well,
I don't know.
I'll say this: the end of Loki season 2 is phenomenal. Like it's a really strong.
Oh, good.
If that's the end of the character, wow. If it's not, please, we'd like to have more, just like with Hugh Jackman. But yeah, very, very, very cool ending.
Back to Logan.
Yeah, back to Logan. Let's talk about the villains. Let's talk about Boyd Holbrook as Pierce. He is he has like a cyborg kind of arm. He's he's like this transigen thug working for Richard E. Grant's Dr. Xander Rice. Let's talk about Pierce. This guy is like just a dick, right? Brittany, like this guy, you want Logan or Laura or whomever to get this guy, right?
Hell, even X-24. I mean, if he wasn't so loyal and so like, whatever to him, I would want him to ultimately murk this guy. Like, yeah, this guy's a bastard. Like, just I really, an actor does a really good job when you hate them almost immediately as soon as they pop up on screen, right? I'm looking at you, Kristen Cole. But that being said, no, I didn't hate him to begin with, but anyway, it's evolved. Yeah, this guy's just an ultimate dick, like especially how he murders Laura's, for all intents and purposes, guardian. I'm spacing out on her character name in the movie, but she's the nurse who tended to Laura along with the rest of the kids that were experimented on, and it's just like there's just no remorse. Like there's just no remorse whatsoever from this guy, and of course his mission is to just mark what's left of mutants and captures Caliban, treats him like shit. It's just I don't like this guy. I don't want to talk about him.
Frank, is Pierce a creation for this movie, or does he have any comic book kind of history?
Yeah, he's been around for a while. He was in he debuted in the early '80s. He was created by Chris Claremont. He's part of the group called the Reavers. It's like cybernetic, half human, half cyborg creations. He's been he's been a arch enemy of the X-Men for a long time, and Wolverine. There was a comic book, I can't remember which one, but he kidnaps Professor X, and the X-Men have to get Professor X back, and they presumably defeat him, and then he joins the Reavers with Lady Deathstrike, another Wolverine adversary, and they kidnap Wolverine. There's a storyline called A Hunt for Wolverine, and I think Mango kind of took pieces from that as well. And the Reavers, they work closely with Mr. Sinister as well, so
Yep.
they're pretty much a mutant hunting group that they kidnap people, do experiments on them, things of that nature. But yeah, old buddy did a great job playing Pierce. He's not really a popular character. He's more known for with the Reavers as a group than more of a solo act. So for Mango to pinpoint him and put him in the storyline, I thought was pretty cool.
You referenced Mr. Sinister. Originally, he was supposed to be in this movie.
Yeah, I think the post-credit scene of Wolverine was the X-Men Apocalypse, I want to say.
Apocalypse, yeah.
The post-credit scene, the lab it's I think on one of the banisters it says Nathan Essex, which is Sinister's name. And when I saw that, I was like, oh shit, we better get Mr. Sinister live on TV. I mean, live on the big screen. But I don't know why I didn't have him in there, even though they teased him.
I think it was because he was too like so James Mangold wanted to make this as like grounded as you can. I mean, obviously Wolverine is this, he can heal, and obviously these aren't real people, but they try to make it as grounded as possible. And I think Sinister would have maybe looked too sci-fi, too comic booky as far as like his makeup. You know what I mean? Although I don't know, Caliban's obviously doesn't. Cal looks like a person. I don't know. It's with this stuff, it's hard to tell with movies. I think sometimes these directors, they want to keep it like, they want it to be as grounded, because like they wanted this movie. The thought of this movie was like, it's a superhero movie, but it's a Western. It's like a Western superhero movie, which it kind of is the way it plays out. And I think Sinister would have made it something else. And I think also Mangold wanted to kind of not connect necessarily directly to the other X-Men movies. It's like he was kind of doing this X-Men series in the middle of this Fox or doing this Wolverine series in the middle of this X-Men world. And so he didn't want to be like it's like the MCU where you have to like set up all these things for TV shows and movies down the road. You're just kind of focused on your one movie, and then whatever happens, and then you move on. So I kind of get that. And I'm sure they probably had ideas to bring Mr. Sinister in an X-Men movie later on anyway. It just never ended up happening. So from Pierce to Dr. Xander Rice, Brittany, Richard E. Grant. Speaking of Loki, he was actually in Loki also.
Classic Loki.
Yeah. What did you think about this? He's he's basically like the scientist behind
the lead scientist.
Yeah. And he's come up with the method, I believe, to rid the world of mutants through food and water, and yeah. What would you think about Richard E. Grant in this movie?
I mean, very similar to what I said about Patrick Stewart, right? You give these men the scripts, they perform the hell out of it, and Richard E. Grant is no exception. Like, he will perform whatever it is you need him to do. Villain, hero. I mean, he's phenomenal. I tend to lean. I like him better as like the villain type. I don't know. There's something about like his look and just his demeanor that makes you really believe that he truly is maybe evil at heart, like outside of being the character, right? He does a great job, but he gets his comings, right? And it's also it's pretty good, of course, but he's despicable. What more needs to be said? He's despicable. He wants to rid the mutants. Why? Like, just because? Why not? I don't know. Through the idea, through like a virus, through like food and such. I was like, oh, this is The Last of Us. Like, this is the precursor for The Last of Us, which is very believable and kind of very scary. And I'm afraid of this world.
So Frank, Xander Rice, much like everyone else in the movie, he dies, And again, a shocking death because he's talking to Logan. Logan pulls a gun, blows his brains out right there. Tell me about what you thought about, you know, Xander Rice's scenes in this movie, and does he have any kind of comic past that you can recall?
I can recall.
Yeah,
I was not expecting the gun the shot to the head, the headshot. I was not
yeah.
expecting that. That was some shock value in that as well. Um, but no, I don't think he's in the comic books. If he is, it's I haven't came across him.
Yeah, the one thing we're told is that, I mean, he says it himself, is like basically, you know, Logan killed his dad because his dad was one of the scientists who put the adamantium into Logan back in, I mean, obviously Origins,
I
but
missed that detail.
yeah, but also, I mean, that scene is referenced in some other X-Men movies also a couple of times. So,
Hmm.
and
Okay.
again, because the timelines are kind of weird and the continuity is kind of strange. I mean, there are some people that believe this movie is like just kind of like a kind of a one-off. It's not even in line with the other X-Men movies, which I can kind of see that, but I also like there's certain things that Professor X says to Logan where it's like he's talking about the guy who started in 2000 because he references like when we found you, you were a cage fighter, you know, all this stuff. Like he's mentioning stuff we've seen on screen. So,
It would have been a little bit more accurate if they had Dr. Cornelius, who is the creator of the Weapon X program in the show in the movie. They didn't have him at all in none of the Wolverine movies. He's like the architect of the Weapon X program. He was one that was he helped create Deadpool and helped create Francis, the guys in Deadpool.
uh,
Francis.
Yeah, Ajax. He's a Weapon X member as well. So that part I feel like Mango kind of missed the mark on because he's such a pivotal part of like the creation of everything, not just Wolverine, but all those Weapon X people.
yeah. And you know, we've talked about the comic books quite a bit in here, and I want to mention, like, I love the fact that there were comic books in this movie. These comic books were created for the film, like they're not actually real comic books. Uh, Frank, what'd you think about how those comic books were used in the film, and just the fact that like Wolverine's like at a bar reading, he has like readers on at a bar reading comic books about the X Men.
I thought it was nostalgic that to have that in there because I mean it makes sense because like in this world, right? These heroes and these villains are larger than life, so it would make sense for like the world and like people from the comic book community or movie community to like make stories about these larger than life heroes, was whether it's through film or through comic books. So I thought that element was pretty cool.
Yeah, I did too. I thought like just the fact that like, and then the fact that Logan is so bent out of shape about the comics. He's like, you know, this is all bullshit. Like none of this is real. Like he's like a quarter of this is real. And it didn't really happen this way. And you know, I love how angry he is about it, but I also love how, you know, how the fact they had their own comics in the film. Brittany, what do you think about that?
Is it considered breaking the fourth wall? No, not really. I don't know. It's kind of funny. I mean, you kind of want to maybe compare it to that of like Deadpool, who constantly breaks the fourth wall, right? Or breaking a fourth wall within a fourth wall, and it's like that's 16 walls. But but yeah, I love the addition of finally seeing the impact that the X-Men had on the world, and enough to create a publication that is beloved by this child, right? And who believes pretty much everything that she's being given, especially with Eden, and hoping that they find this refuge. Um and I think it through the comic book that they had the coordinates to locate Eden, right? So I don't know. It's just it's this is what I'm going to kind of divert a little bit. This is what I love about reading, is that it kind of creates this world and a chance for you as the reader to escape and find some sort of refuge. And for these kids, like that was literally a life or death situation, to find a place where they could just, be free and not have to worry about, looking over their shoulder or anything like that. Right. And it was inspired because of a comic book that talks about mutants that they personally can relate to. So I don't know, it's kind of cool. It's kind of cool how that was all incorporated.
Yeah, if I could like keep something from this movie, I'd want one of those comic books because it's just like kind of a cool like memorabilia thing where it's like they were made specifically just for this movie, and I don't know, it's just cool to have that stuff in the film.
And talk a little bit more about the kids, you know, saving the comic books and all of that.
Mm-hmm.
All those kids, I mean, a lot of them got killed in that lab, in the lab, and some got away, but those weren't natural mutants. Like they were making mutants. They were like experimenting on kids and giving them powers and all of that. And it just shows you that humans ain't shit. Like to get little kids and like try to make them weapons, and then the ones that weren't deemed, you know, perfect or good, they just killed them. Like that part of me I thought was really symbiotic to like what goes on in society, how like, you know, whether it's government or warfare or how the powers that be create these weapons for, you know, self-interest and for power and control and political reasons. So I thought having that was bless you, TJ. So I thought having that was very was very real for the show. For the movie.
Bless the puppy in the background. Bless his sweet little heart. I love him. No, you're right. Especially, I don't know why that whole idea of the weak, obviously you don't get to survive. It kind of threw me back to the first time that I watched 300, where the Spartans would toss off their weak, you know, weak babies, right? Or if they were deformed or, you know, something like that, they weren't worthy of life. And that's just something that's been going on for eons, right? Mm-hmm. The weak are not going to survive, and you know, you'll be surprised what the weak, quote unquote, can do. It might not be to your expectations, but hell, like they're just as important as anyone else.
Well, those kids had powers too, and you know, Pierce, he found out because they teamed up on him and you know, killed him in multiple different ways at the same time.
That was really cool. I really enjoyed watching that because of how much cruelty he bestowed upon like just the collective, right? And how they all united against him, and it's just like he's just completely powerless, and that was awesome.
Yeah, this is a brutal like action movie, like really from the start of let's just kind of go through some of our favorite scenes. The way this movie starts out, like right away, you know, we find out that Logan's this limousine driver. He's in El Paso, and
Texas. Sorry.
Yeah, Texas. Yeah, and you know, right away, these dudes like, which continues the theme that I always think is funny in these movies is you always have these guys who like try to like mess with him, and like the second he gets out of the car and pulls his claws, it's like those dudes like they're dead. Like if I'm one of those guys, I see that I'm like, guys, I'll see y'all later, man. Like if you make it, like.
But it's like y'all don't do your homework. Like Wolverine's been around forever. Like he's a former X-Men. Like you don't know who this. The minute I saw that one claw come out, I know it was deformed a little bit. The minute I saw that, I'm like, you know, man, I'm good, bro. You have a good day. My bad, Logan. My bad. I didn't mean to see your tires. Right. The fact that they hung around to fight, like, come on, bro. Like, do your homework, bro.
Yeah, it. Yeah, he's not one I definitely want to deal with. I don't care if you're in El Paso or if you're across the border in Mexico. Like, you know, they're ballsy, right? You know, there's ballsy people out there, no matter where you are. But when you come one-on-one with an X-Men and an X-Men who's got these claws, yes, he might not be as young as he used to. Yes, he might not be able to heal as fast as he once could. Chances are your ass is dead. So why even try at all? Like, Jesus. Yeah. One of my favorite scenes in of course is surrounding Professor X. I think I hollered the first time I watched this movie and Professor X like dropped the F-bomb. Like it was just so fucking fun, no pun intended, but it was so fucking funny to me to hear him curse. And then again, the sweet moments that he has with Laura and trying to appeal to her and to explain things to her, because she's in a foreign like land, right? She's doesn't know who these people are. She's hearing things that she probably has never heard before. And the one line that kind of sticks out to me with Professor X is saying, is a tren, the choo-choo, like that. I don't know. To me, that's just so sweet, because he's having to like bring it down to her levels for her to understand, not just because she speaks a different language, but just something that, trying to communicate with her in the best way possible, because he doesn't have a grip on his powers anymore, right? He can't like telepathically communicate with her and that kind of nature. So, which would also equally, I think, freak her out. But it's those really sweet moments where he's like caring for a child once again, because that is who Professor X is, right? He nurtured children, mutants who were not wanted, or who didn't know how to control their powers, and you get to see that glimpse of him once again. It's really sweet. I love all the scenes that deal with Patrick Stewart. Again, heartbreaking to see his death, but yeah, those are definitely some of my favorite scenes.
Yeah, another one of my favorite action scenes is the limo chase / escape scene, where they, Logan has Professor X and Laura in the limo. They're driving away, and they're able to like clear the train tracks just in time as the tracks like basically create a barrier between them and Pearson Company.
Is it because it's like Fast and the Furious?
It kind of
is. It like Dom?
Yeah, it kind of is. You're right.
God Almighty.
No, I just think it's like a really cool way they played that. Because the Reavers, there's like 50 of them or whatever, and they're able to get away because that train is blocking their pathway. So thought that was a cool scene.
Mm-hmm.
There's really a ton of action stuff. Frank, do you have a favorite action scene that we haven't mentioned?
I got 3 from the movie alone.
Ooh.
When they pull up to, like, I guess the compound where Professor X is at and Wolverine, they come out, and they try to get Laura, and she comes out and she just murks like 3 of them just like that, like in the claw, the steel claw comes out of the shoe, and before that she's eating a bowl of cereal while they're coming in and try closing on her. I'm just kind of like, yeah, I know who she's a clone of. Like,
right?
You think you're going to be able to contain her? No tranquilizers, nothing. She can hear from, like, y'all brought guns. She can hear, she can heal. Like, she's gonna recover from that motherfucker. Like that part was wild to me. Another favorite part of mine is when she's Laura's riding the little toy horse, and like she's trying to get it to go, and she's like trying to break it, and Logan just puts a quarter in it and it starts going, and she's calm again. I love that scene because it speaks to her. She's a weapon, but you forget she's still a fucking child. You know what I'm saying? Like, like she's never been able to play before. Like, just be a kid. Put on sunglasses in the store and walking out of it because like she doesn't understand the whole premise of like paying for something, and like all like just the very unrefinedness of her character. Just trying to get assimilated in society, I thought was kind of cool. And man, the final showdown, man, between Logan and X-24, I thought that was dope. Like, it was so poetic, man. Like, as a fan, I wanted to see Wolverine die because I got tired of seeing him suffer, because he suffered throughout the whole movie. Like, there was no point of like living at that point after Laura was saved. Like, I feel like he finally completed his mission, and now you have permission to die. And then like the last scene I love, that it's probably my second favorite like teary-eye scene in the MCU after the
cheeseburger.
Cheeseburgers is when Laura calls her dad, like right when he's dying. Yeah. First time she says that while he's dying, and like you see a tear at Logan's eyes before he passes on. Those were my highlights of the movie.
And to piggyback on that final showdown, getting to see Wolverine like the Wolverine back, right? Because he pumps himself up with like the serum to, you know, pretty much bring him back into his prime, and you just see the man like lose his mind, what have you, and just, you know, does what he does best, right? But you know, the fact too that he has been carrying around this adamantium bullet,
Yeah.
right? Because at some point, you know, he wanted to commit suicide, which is devastating, of course, but for the reasons that Frank have already explained, how long he's been alive, the things that he's witnessed, the people that he's lost along the way, you know, enough's enough, right? Like he's not young anymore considerably. He's not healing the way that he used to. He's just not. And so for him to carry that around, for Laura to discover it and understand what this means for Logan, for her to be the one to shoot that bullet to X-24's head and just completely obliterate him.
Oh, yeah.
Now that was equally crazy to watch, because I
Yeah.
never want to see Hugh Jackman ever like that, period. But just how all of that kind of came into fruition. Like, technically, Wolverine, Logan, a variant, has been killed, but it's by the hands of his child, right? But you know, for Logan to, you know, go out as a hero still, like, that to me is so much better for him as a person, as a hero, as a superhero, to have that kind of death, as opposed to him just taking his own life because he's just had enough. So I thought that was a really well planned death, if you will, or use of the adamantium bullet. Because we had heard in a previous movie that, you know, adamantium to the head was going to make him, it wasn't going to kill him at that time. It was going to make him lose his memories, and that's how he doesn't remember anything.
Yeah.
But for this was like kind of a surefire thing for him to end his life.
Yeah, that's from Origins, the adamantium.
Yeah,
go ahead, Frank.
exactly.
And make no mistake, like, people have to understand this. Logan is more dangerous without the adamantium. Like, he's already, like, the healing factor is already there. Like that was just a government sanctioned thing to try to make him the perfect weapon. But the minute that they bond him with the adamantium, it was poisoning him. But the healing factor for years was fighting it. It's kind of like with Deadpool with the cancer cells. Like, it's constantly regenerating itself because of the juncture of his cancer advancement when he got when he got that the Weapon X implementation. But Wolverine is way more dangerous without the adamantium. In the comic book, and we saw it in X-Men 97, when Magneto strips him of the adamantium, he survives, but he's way more dangerous. Like, he's way more fighting. For one, he's not 500 pounds. Like, the adamantium weighs him down. So it robs him of his agility, his quickness. He's still very quick, but take off 500 pounds of metal in your body, he's the perfect weapon.
Yeah, he just bounces and goes, wee.
But back to the adamantium bullet, you're right, Brittany. Like, that was a very surprising scene because, you know, Laura, she blows half of X-24's head off. Like, it's a
boy,
brutal
does
killing.
she.
Yeah, I mean, obviously you're rooting for it because he's just like stabbing Logan. Logan's already been impaled by this like large like tree branch.
Oh,
And
that was horrible.
yeah, and then as he's dying, one of his best lines in the movie is when Logan's dying, and he's like, "So this is what it's like." And it's like, you think about how long he's lived, how many people he's killed, how many things he's had to kill in his life, and now he's experiencing death. You know, just like he lost Professor X earlier, he lost all these other people, and it's a sad ending. But like Frank said, it's like, you know, it's kind of like he finally can rest. This is his final resting place. And speaking of that, then, you know, Laura, you know, she takes the cross that's on his grave and she tilts it to create the X, which I'm like, that's like a perfect ending for the character. And one other thing I want to mention about the funeral with the children, I didn't notice this the first couple times I watched it, but you know, now is like more aware and more alert. There's one of the children has a Wolverine yellow and blue figure, which of course in, you know, the kid's holding it at the funeral, and of course in Deadpool and Wolverine, he's going to be in the famous yellow and blue spandex costume. So, Brittany, any thoughts about the funeral, about her making the X out of the cross?
Man, that X, tilting that cross onto its side to create the X for Logan's final resting place, that had me all kinds of messed up. Like, I was already upset, of course, by watching the death, and yes, it was heroic. It was, just everything you would have wanted for that character. But like that, the finality of it is what makes this movie such a tough watch. And that's why I won't really watch this movie very often, because I don't want to feel that way. I don't want to feel sad. It's the same reason why I don't like watching Infinity Wars that much, because I don't like seeing these people perish, like, or I say perish, but like dissolve into, dust or whatever. That's just sad. That's like watching a death and you still can't do anything about it. But that final moment before the kids walk away, before Laura, walks away and tilts the cross to the X, is just like, oh God, that was just so well done. So well done. What an homage to the Wolverine as an X-Men. And that would be the only appropriate way to leave his grave and leave that as a marker for his grave. It's just so good. So good. So sad.
Yeah.
But so good.
Frank, thoughts on the funeral? What'd you think about it?
I always fast forward to that part. I don't want to see it. I want him to die, but I don't want to watch the funeral. Like, you end a wounded dog. Stop letting him suffer. But I've only seen that funeral. I've only seen that funeral once. That was actually in theaters when I watched it for the first time. It's just too heavy. Like, seeing that little 11-year-old girl cry for her dad. It was just too much. That's the one.
Oh my
That's
God.
the one scene I just can't watch. It's too heavy. Like, seeing any kid sad is fucked up. Seeing a kid sad that just lost her parent that she just met, like, you know what I'm saying? Like, in this roller coaster of a film, it's too tough. It was beautifully done. I mean, the way that Wolverine ended, the 200 years of life, the wars that he's fought in, the man fought in Civil War, World War I, World War II, like Vietnam. Yeah. He's lost most of his lovers, were either killed or die in some form of fashion. Like, the amount of suffering he's had, and is even worse than the comic books. Like, the movie version just shows like a snippet of like what he's lost. When you read the 40 plus years of the comic books of Wolverine, it's like, bro, you still alive? You still kicking? How? Like, you should be in a psych ward, like, wrapped up in bondage.
Just over here
like,
rocking.
Like, yeah, like the amount of loss that he's had, like him joining the X-Men and him committing all those missions with the X-Men was probably the highlight of his life, because he actually had a family, you know what I'm saying, with Professor X and the rest of the clique. Other than that, his life has been pretty much torture. Other than that, so to see him come to an end, it brought peace. I won't say I was happy with it, but it brought peace to a character that I thought deserved it.
Yeah.
Over here in the chat, Move says, thanks for the reminder to never watch this movie again. I cry enough, and if I have to watch this, I'd cry for an hour. Listen, it's valid.
It is very sad, but the next thing I want to mention, this is the last thing, is it's very powerful how the movie ends. Right after you see the X, you hear this Johnny Cash song, The Man Comes Around, and starts playing, and then just black goes to credit, and then like you get the big Logan on the screen, which to me is very similar, like The Dark Knight. So it's like that's why this movie is kind of compared to The Dark Knight. And it's like, this movie is a Western. The heroic gunslinger is, kind of met his end, and he gets the rest now. And then just like, that's the movie. Like, I mean, it's a 2 hour and 20-minute movie, but the ending is like very powerful. Not only just him dying in the funeral, but just, there's no messing around. And it's like, wow, that was like an experience,
I'm telling y'all, if y'all want more Wolverine, I mentioned this on some other podcasts.
Yep.
You got to watch Wolverine the X-Men on Disney Plus. It's 23 episodes. It's one season, but Wolverine shows his ass as leader of the X-Men in that version.
Oh, I thought you meant he really shows his ass. I'm like,
no,
wow.
like as a leader, like you see the leadership skills. You see. To not spoil too much, pretty much X-Men disbanded after a cataclysmic event, and he pretty much fights to bring the X-Men back together to do. It's supposed to be multiple seasons, but there's one last mission, and it's really, really good. We should do a podcast over it, to be honest.
Yeah, and I still need to watch it. It's not connected to the X-Men animated series at all. It's just another animated series because, again, the animated series was so popular in the 90s that Fox was like, we need to recreate this and just kind of reboot. And they did it a couple of times. There was like 3 or 4 X-Men series, and they're all on Disney Plus to my knowledge. So I think we'll probably at some point we'll get around to watching all those. And yeah, 23 episodes is not a lot when it's like 20-minute episodes. So
Yeah. I think we should do like maybe like episode like for every 2 or 3, but like it's really really good. The first it was on Freeform like in 2009, and like for some reason it left it open for another season, but they just never did another season.
yeah.
They should get what's his name?
Bo
DeMaio.
Yeah.
Bo DeMaio to take over that.
Yeah, speaking of that, they did hire someone to replace him officially for season 2, and they're kind of reworking the storylines and everything apparently. Yeah. But they did greenlight season 3. So we're getting a lot more X-Men 97.
Do we know why?
Sorry.
Why did he get fired again, Bo DeMaio?
It hasn't been made clear. I don't know that we're ever going to really know until there's like a tell-all book or something.
There's rumors that of like an OnlyFans account. And of course, when you're employed by Disney, the mouse has certain rules. But there was also rumors of just incompatibility with him and the executives, other writers, other people involved in the production of X-Men 97. Like Justin said, we might never know. There's the truth, and then there's Bo's truth, and then there's other people's truth. So yeah,
I don't think it was anything like criminal, because if that was the case, we would have heard something, and obviously Bo DeMaio wouldn't be so vocal about everything. But I think it was just a combination of a lot of stuff, and I think they didn't. I think they thought he was difficult to deal with, and maybe it was like mutual. So.
Yeah,
I would have done it difficult as he produced one of the best seasons of TV I've seen.
Hell yeah.
Hell
yeah.
And
an animation.
Yeah.
Like these great talents aren't easy to work with. Like I first heard about Tom Hardy, Christian Bale on set. These guys are tyrants at times, but they're brilliant, so suck it up, man.
Oh, I hear that about Anthony Starr for The Boys.
Really?
Like that's probably meant for our talk for next week when we cover the season finale of The Boys. I've got some stories to share about Anthony Starr. I'm not sure how true they really are, but this is the rumor mill at its working.
Yeah. It's just people. It's like people working at places. That's the way it is in every business. It's just like, this business.
Look at where we work.
Well, yeah, but the business that they're in is very high profile, and people are seeing things, and it's obviously when you create a show that's as popular and as well made as X-Men 97 was, there's going to be questions why the guy that created it, helmed it, and created 2 seasons of it is out before they even premiered the first episode. So very strange stuff. There's going to be a lot of Marvel news the next week or so. So definitely be on the lookout. We might have to do some emergency pods, or maybe we'll mention some stuff during our Deadpool and Wolverine review. However, before we get to Deadpool and Wolverine, we have one more movie to rewatch and talk about next week. That's going to be Deadpool 2. And spoiler alert, that's one of my favorite movies of all time. I love that movie. I love both Deadpool movies. I love Logan also, but
I love that Thanos is in it.
Yeah, right. As Cable.
Love it.
Yeah, so we'll be talking about that next. As we kind of wrap up here, Brittany, you have any final thoughts about Logan?
I probably won't watch it ever again. Truth be told, full transparency, I didn't even watch it for this pod review. Okay. What I shared is from my own recollection. Also, a quick YouTube video of a movie in minutes. Shout out to them for quickly recapping Logan, because I did not need to sit through all that sadness and drama and the horror that is the finality of the Wolverine. So yeah, no, yeah, that goes to show, like, I don't like watching this movie because I don't like how it makes me feel. So yeah.
Understood. I appreciate your honesty. Frank, final thoughts about Logan?
It's a collector's item, man. If you haven't seen it, you gotta watch it. It's more than just a superhero movie. It's a really great film with great acting, great talent. I think Daphne King. I haven't seen her in any other things, but she's very talented. The great Hugh Jackman. I mean, there's a great ensemble cast, and it's for Fox's last superhero / Marvel movie. They did it right with that one.
Well, they did a couple more because they did Deadpool 2, and they did X-Men. What was it called? The Phoenix movie. Is it?
Oh, the Dark
Oh,
Phoenix.
Dark Phoenix.
And
That was
then
after. That was after Logan.
yeah. And then the actual final one they made was the New Mutants.
Which actually Daphne Keane is in, along with his Dark Materials, which was a very popular show. And then as of recently, Disney Plus's The Acolyte, which is a Star Wars story, if you will.
Okay.
So yeah, I haven't watched any of those shows. Once again, I'll be 100% honest. But she's
Brittany, real quick. Daphne Keane's in the New Mutants.
That's what it says. I just pulled up her filmography.
Now, I've seen the movie.
I just pulled up her filmography. That's what it says.
Maybe they show a picture of her or something, but I mean, I don't remember her in that. And there's only like about 8 characters in that movie.
Okay. I probably could have it wrong. Maybe she's referenced, or maybe it was just like similar type things. Okay, but okay, so take that back. She was not in the New Mutants, but she was for sure in his Dark Materials and The Acolyte.
Okay.
I'll tell you what, she's rumored to be in Wolverine Deadpool. Her character's rumored to be in it. So
I've heard the same. But how true that may be, we'll find out.
Well, I think she is, and you know why I think she is because she was asked about it a few weeks ago, and she said she wasn't in the movie. Which spoiler alert if you haven't watched all the trailers, but one of the recent trailers for Deadpool Wolverine shows Tyler Mane, the original Sabretooth, is back. And like 6 months ago, people asked him, "Are you in the movie?" He's like, "No, I'm not in the movie." And he's in the movie. So I'm pretty sure also the guy that played Juggernaut in the first X-Men movies, he was asked, "Hey, are you going to be in the movie?" And then he's like, "Nope, not in it." And then like in one of the trailers, you can see him in the background. So I think that everyone who's a part of those movies is going to be in this movie in some form or fashion. I love Brittany's idea of morph. I think that's absolutely genius. And that's something that MCU should use regardless of if it's in this movie or not. But
give me royalties so I can retire at 36. Okay. Just do it.
I think we're going to see everybody. So it'll be a celebration of X-Men Days of, past and future. I was trying to avoid the actual movie title Days of Future Past, but yeah. So
I think I'm going to make a prediction.
Okay.
I think it makes $1 billion. My second prediction is I think we get another Wolverine and Deadpool movie in the future as well.
You heard it here, folks, on the Watchers in the Basement. Frank Cooper makes his predictions: $1 billion and more Wolverine movies.
I agree with $1 billion. I think that's going to happen. The only thing that might hold up the Deadpool and Wolverine sequel is because I think Secret Wars or whatever that Avengers movie is going to be called is probably going to happen before a sequel. Although who knows if this movie makes a ton of money, they may like fast track a sequel. So you're right. That's probably more likely to happen than anything else.
Think about $1 billion movies, they'll find a way to make another one.
Yeah. Right.
And these guys are like besties, and like they love working with each other. Like from what I've read from back in the origin movies and all that, I think they're gonna find a way find themselves back to each other again. Whether it's an X-Men movie and Deadpool's in it, I think they're gonna be in the same another movie in the distant future.
I agree.
Agreed.
I agree. So now you know what we thought about Logan. We want to know what you thought about it. And Brittany, how can people tell us what they thought about the film?
As always, we invite everyone to join us here on our live chats as we review all of the things, that's movies and TV shows. We'll also be back shortly to review the season 4 finale of The Boys from Amazon Prime Video. So if y'all are into that, be sure to subscribe. Hit that notification bell. That way you know the next time we go live. And also don't forget to like this video as well. Shout out to King B. Johnson, M Moves, Tracy Vigilance, and Mel of Geeking Out with Mel and Mel, who was here earlier, for joining us in today's chat. We always appreciate those who take the time out of their day to hang out with us. We really enjoy getting to chat with y'all. The engagement here has been great as of late. Let's keep it going. I mentioned about subscribing, y'all. About 80+% of y'all who watch us are not subscribed. So go ahead and subscribe. Just it helps out our channel. It helps our reach. Let others know about us. We're here. We enjoy doing what we do, and we hope you enjoy it as well. Also, don't forget to follow us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and Threads, all at Watchers Basement. Use hashtag Watchers Basement when talking about us. Share with us your memes and other things. And lastly, we do have video podcasts here on YouTube, but we also have audio podcasts available to you on Apple. Just kidding. On something. Yeah, Apple and Spotify.
Yeah, you got it. Yeah, Apple Music or Apple. Yeah.
It has been a very long day for me, y'all. I apologize. Give us a follow, give us a 5-star rating, and tell others about us, of course.
Yeah. Well, with these like brands, like just say Apple, because it'll change. They'll change the name of it.
That's fair. Yeah. So Apple, Spotify, other platforms that you get your audio podcasts from. Just go find us and subscribe and tell others.
Yeah. It used to be iTunes. I think now it's Apple Music or Apple Podcasts or whatever. Just know it. Yeah.
Just find us, like us.
So appreciate it, Brittany. So for Brittany and for Frank, I'm Justin saying thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. We will see you next time. Have a good evening. Bye-bye.